As a child, I discovered horror in the 80s, so I have a deep fondness for slashers and raunchy teen comedies, as most horror fans do of that era. Vicious Fun manages to combine both without making the nostalgia feel forced or ingenuine. Let's dive deeper into Vicious Fun after this. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Vicious Fun is new, streaming on Shudder from Black Fawn Studios. It's directed by Cody Calahan, written by Cody Calahan, and James Villeneuve. It's 1983, and a bumbling horror writer named Joel, played by Evan Marsh, writes for a popular magazine called Vicious Fun, which is a thinly veiled version of Fangoria. After a night of doing nothing at home, as usual, Joel attempts to gather dirt on the most recent boyfriend of his roommate, who Joel has a crush on. Joel follows the recent boyfriend, Bob, played by Ari Millen, to a bar which hosts a therapeutic group for serial killers after hours. It's not long before the group sees through Joel's ruse, and joyous carnage, dark humor, and of course, vicious fun ensues. Director Cody Calahan, who helmed Antisocial, Antisocial 2, Let Her Out, and The Oak Room, adds another fantabulous horror film to his list of credits with Vicious Fun. If you fondly remember those classic 80s horror movies that deftly blended horror and comedy, like Night of the Creeps, Vamp, and Fright Night, you can add Vicious Fun to that list as it feels cut from the exact same cloth. Cody Calahan not only gives the film a fun electric neon aesthetic throughout, but it also pulls some common plot elements from the 80s with his co-writer James Villeneuve. There's a boppy and fast feel to this film that just doesn't seem to happen that often these days. The comedy is crisp, and actually feels like it takes risks, not tippy-toeing around safe material in order not to offend. Sure, there are some broad strokes slapstick moves, but also some really cleverly written dialogue that makes it so the film never gets stale. And while this isn't a scare-a-minute horror film, it never forgets that it is one. The gallows humor really walks hand in hand with the morbid and diabolical stuff going on. Yes, a therapeutic group for serial killers is a broad concept loaded with all kinds of comedic potential, and a lot of that is taken advantage of. Still, there are gory kills, evil characters, intense situations, and all kinds of wrong happenings from beginning to end. This is all because Vicious Fun only gets started when the serial killer support group concept comes to an end. Most films would just hinge the entire runtime on that premise, but there's a whole other movie where the killers lay siege on a police station that takes things to a new level of mayhem. It's that willingness to go to uncharted horror territory that makes it all the more entertaining and unpredictable. Calahan also has a tendency to really play around with the depth of field, where things are going on in the foreground as well as the background, and that shows a deft understanding of how to make a tense and suspenseful horror scene, linking them together to make one awesome horror film. The acting is fantastic as well. Our lead, Joel, played by Evan Marsh, is a hapless yet likable lead, if not a bit cliched. His co-star, the vigilante known as Carrie, Amber Goldfarb, is pretty good as well, playing the wizened serial killer hunter who feels Joel is nothing but an inconvenience getting in her way. The relationship between the two is a played-out one. It's the buddy cop premise, most akin with the James McAvoy-Angelina Jolie relationship in Wanted, but the script still makes it all feel freshly plucked. The best part of Vicious Fun is how they fill out the rest of the cast. There's a trio of cops, Christopher Bowman, Mark Gibson, and John Frey, who deserve their own film and are hilarious in the way they parody tough cop behavior. David Koechner is good, but underused as the serial killer discussion leader, but it's the wonderful portrayal of the three lead serial killers that really make this film so special. Robert Maillet, who was pretty awesome in last year's Becky, plays a Jason Voorhees-like serial killer and is the muscle in this trio of killers. If you ever wondered how anything for Jackson's Julian Richings would be like as the Joker, you find out here as he really amps up the weirdness in every scene he's in as a clown-faced killer. These two are serial killer tropes, but both actors bring something new and special to their roles. For me, though, the highlight of Vicious Fun is R.A. Millen's turn as Bob, a charismatic sociopath who wears a rain slicker to keep his clothes clean whilst killing, a la Patrick Bateman or Dexter. Millen swings for the fences in this role and has the best lines in the movie. He's sort of the Moe if the three killers were the Stooges, attempting to bring order to their madness and running into roadblocks all the way to have his perfect equilibrium achieved. Millen is a star in the making and brings something different to every performance. He can play charming, intense, and scary, plus he has great comic timing. There are some actors I just can't wait to see their body of work unfold and develop from movie to movie, and Millen's is one such career I'd like to see. One of the things that I absolutely love about this film is that it manages to drive a particular plot point home without becoming preachy, overbearing, and acting like it's better than you. After Joel's plan to show his roommate the error in her ways fails to work out, Carrie asks him what the rest of his plan was. It's another 80s cliche where the nebbish star deceives the gal or unmasks the jerk in order to win the heart of the apple in his eye. But in this film, Carrie shoots down Joel's intentions with two lines. You can't force someone to love you. You're not entitled to that. That's it. Joel takes a moment to take those words to heart and realizes he was wrong in trying to manipulate his roommate into being into him. What impressed me is that the most modern movies would take that situation and beat you about the head and neck with the quote, unquote, correct thinking way in a long, tedious discourse, making sure Joel and the viewer, who is naturally wanting Joel to succeed, feel absolutely rotten for it. This film doesn't do that. Carrie proceeds to say, don't beat yourself up over it. Just think about what you want to do next. Wow. Just wow. It's amazing how a point is made without having to murder, decimate, or humiliate the wrong thinker. If movies would be this direct, concise, and dare I say it, altruistic, there wouldn't be such a fervor these days about those who choose to make a point through long-winded, pious, and shaming campaigns. Great job, Vicious Fun. More movies should take note on how you handled this situation. But the main reason for not harping on outdated stereotypes lies in the name of the film. This is just a movie that loves horror and just wants to have fun with it. Sure, it gets meta at times with Joel working for a Fango-type magazine and is extra critical on horror tropes, all the while starring in a movie that takes full advantage of those horror tropes. There's also a maybe too much on-the-nose conversation between the cops about the genre of horror that was fun, but felt a bit extraneous. Still, the movie is one hell of a good time, from the very beginning to the very end, and I hope this film gets the recognition it deserves and possibly gets a sequel. It certainly leaves it open for that. Fans of the comic book series Hack Slash about a gal who tracks down serial killers are going to see similarities, but man did I have a blast with Vicious Fun. If you're a fan of slasher films and 80s films in general, director Cody Calahan is dedicating this fabulous, freaky slash fest to you. That'll be it for today. Please chime in down below in the comments and let me know how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. So guys, you know how YouTube works. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to this channel. I'm not monetized yet, so if you want to help me out, remember to hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below. Want some spooky comics to read? I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look out for. Both Gravetrancers and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, can be found in only the finest of comic book shops. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on my website, mlmillerwrites.com. If you really want to show your support, I also have a Patreon page at mlmiller. Look for the link to my Patreon page down below. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your